areas. So I have in-laws in Germany, so I'm able to connect with them and talk in real time, and I think it's a wonderful thing. I also think for people that want to volunteer to get involved with campaigns or charities or interest groups that they have that they're passionate about, even for our young folks, it's a great way for them to get access to those things, to meet like-minded people, and to give back to their communities, to be good citizens. So I think that's great. It has good access to news information, although I say we have to be a little skeptical on what we're reading nowadays because it can get blurred. Those lines are so blurred. So depending on what source you're reading, it could be slanted one way or the other. So I always say it can be good news sources as long as you're looking at reputable sources. Health information, it helps people understand themselves and the world around them, so they kind of identify, especially the young folks, these adolescents, their online identities are sometimes more important than their in-person identities. So they actually define and understand themselves that way. It can enhance creativity and idea sharing, especially with the music and arts and things like that. People can interact with others and share similar goals and interests. And even from an educational standpoint, when it comes to the world of academia, obviously it's a great way to connect with fellow students, educators, colleagues in work environments, all of those things. So that's kind of some of the good things about social media. Now we'll flip to the other side. And this is what the side that I deal with, unfortunately, on a regular basis, is the negative effects of social media use. So one of the things I'm seeing the most about social media use is how highly addictive it is. It's extremely addictive, to the point where, especially with young folks, where the frontal lobe is not fully developed and they're very impulsive, it can cause a dopamine rush. They're addicted to it, to the point where I go teach in the schools and I'll ask them, has anyone have a fear of missing out if they don't look at their phone every 5 minutes? And there'll be numerous kids in the group that'll raise their hand and they're like, yeah, because their whole identity, what they think of themselves, is being determined by what other people around them view them in a social media. So it's causing them to have unhealthy sleep patterns where they're not sleeping. Even with adults, we're seeing married couples that are going to bed at night and they're laying in the same bed and both of them are staring at their little screens and there's no connection. I'm sure you've seen these young teenagers at restaurants or out here in our community where they're sitting with a friend and they're literally texting back and forth across the table rather than having a face-to-face, communication. So it's very addictive, especially like the TikTok that they're using nowadays. It filters the content to them. It's highly addictive. It's causing a dopamine rush in their brain, and they can't put it down. And they fear that if they miss out on something and they don't know the latest thing, that they're going to be out of touch with they're going to be missing out on acceptance amongst their peers. So it causes depression and anxiety. It can lead to cyberbullying and questionable activities, because we all know that when we're sitting behind a computer screen, it's much easier to be brave, right? Where we can click some things on a computer and we think it's never going to have an impact, versus having to do that face to face to somebody. It takes a different level, right? We have that anonymity from being behind a computer screen. So some users will reveal way too much about themselves and they make themselves easy targets. It can cause unrealistic expectations, because I don't know about you, but most things I see on social media, and I'll put myself in this age group, we talk about Facebook. The younger folks don't talk about Facebook. Facebook is something for the older generations. In fact, I just recently did a background check on a new hire, and I went in and I was like, "Oh, what kind of social media accounts do you have?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I have Facebook." He goes, I just keep that for my old relatives, because that's how they reach out to me on. So they're not using Facebook anymore. We might use Facebook. But what happens is, I don't know we'll speak about Facebook, but like I don't put up the picture when I have the stomach bug and I'm sick and my hair's all over the place and I look all disheveled. That's not the picture I'm posting of myself. I'm posting the picture where I'm having a good hair day. I look my best, right? I had some great accomplishment, something good happened. And that's what most people do, is that they put up all that positive stuff. And what it does is it causes this false sense of reality, thinking that everybody else has this easy life. But the reality is that there's a universal assumption of trauma, and meaning that it doesn't matter who we encounter, we should assume that everybody has experienced some level of hardship and trauma in their life. And that's what I try to teach these young folks, because they're not seeing that. They see everything through rainbow colored glasses because of what they're seeing, what's being filtered to them. It may lead to a physical encounter with the wrong person. It can create them to have negative body image. And I think I already addressed the other one. So there's just a few of the negative consequences. of it. And everything, like I said, everything you do on social media is permanent, it's traceable, and there's no way, I don't have a magic wand as a police officer to get that back. Once it's out there, it goes everywhere, and it's very, very hard to now rein it in. All right, so here are some of the most popular apps that teenagers are currently using. So I'm sure there's probably some on this list that you guys maybe never have heard of. So maybe this is a good time for you to do a little research on these apps and what they entail. I don't, in the essence of time today, especially with us getting started late, I don't have time to go through each one of them with you, but there's anonymous messaging apps like Lipsy and Telenym, where they can message people and keep it anonymous, so they don't know who's writing to them. Okay, there's live video chatting apps like House Party and Hala, which they're using in group settings where they're communicating. Regular traditional messaging apps like Kik, WhatsApp, Telegram, those are some of the most popular ones. Entertainment apps, that's where we're seeing a lot of activity. Discord is a gaming app. However, it tends to be a dark web app is what we see. So Discord is kind of one that I'm not a big fan of. TikTok is huge. We're seeing them do these ridiculous challenges to try to, where they're making poor choices that are dangerous for themselves and others, for their health, because they're trying to make a TikTok video, or they might be trying to drive a car in excess of 100 miles an hour while they're making their TikTok video. Really reckless behavior. YouTube is still popular, believe it or not, amongst the young people. They're still using YouTube. And then we have photo sharing apps like Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, and Vesco. So those are just kind of a little list. Like I said, I can't go through all of them. Just something that you should be aware of is there's photo vaults. And if you've never heard of photo vaults, I'm seeing a lot of that amongst middle school and high school age kids. So what they're doing is you can download from the App Store on your phone, depending on whether you're using an Apple device or whether you're using an Android device. You can download these photo vaults, and they're hidden photo vaults. So what they look like is they might look like the weather app on your phone, or they might look like the calculator app on your phone. And really what they are is they're an app. They're like a vault where they can set a separate passcode for it that the parents don't know, and they're hiding their text messages, their Snapchats, their photos. They're hiding them in these vaults. So it looks like it might be just the weather app on their phone, but actually it's a passcode protected vault where they're hiding images and text messages that they don't want adults to see. And they're very well versed on that. So be aware that there are things like vaults that appear to be something different than what they really are. All right. So I talk here about we should discuss risks at every age. Okay. So what I mean by this is when we're talking about the younger kids, we should start talking about netiquette and like online manners from a young age, because they have a good foundation for later lessons that they might learn about cyberbullying. But we should be introducing this. It's the kind of the same concept of when we talk to kids about riding in cars safely. We don't wait till they're 16 to decide to talk to them about these are what you should do with your seatbelt, and this is what buckling up does, and this is what it prevents. We start from a young age, right? Teaching them about vehicle safety. It's the same thing when it comes to technology. We're so hesitant that we're going to introduce an idea that they don't know about. Let me tell you, I have fifth graders, fourth graders, seventh graders that are way more advanced than we're giving them credit for. So we should be talking about these things throughout the adolescent development. So from an early age, talk about things that are appropriate. This is what it means to have manners online. This is how we talk to people in the right way. This is how we are kind to people. You can, when it gets into the tweens, the early tweens, you can start talking to them about not posting revealing pictures. And it can evolve into frank discussions about sexting and things like that when they become full teenagers. But you need to, right from a young age, talking about not trusting everything that they see online, not trusting everyone that they meet online, and that there is something to be said for meaningful in-person relationships, that those matter just as much. In fact, sometimes they matter a lot more. So I think what I'm trying to show in this age is that we should be having these discussions. We shouldn't be waiting to all of a sudden say, oh, this is what you should do now when they're already 16, 17 years old. We should be having them from a young age. I have young kids myself. I plan to start these conversations very young. I already kind of do model that behavior for them. So we'll go ahead to the next screen. Oh, we'll go here. So some of the risky, I don't have to, this is self-explanatory, but some of the risky behaviors that we're seeing teens and young folks do online is they're sending mean or rude messages. Some of them could be considered hate messages or racist or things like that, and that could come back to have a negative impact. Inappropriate photos of themselves, talking about adult subjects, or visiting adult sites. Like I said, nowadays it's consumerism. We're just consuming. They are consuming the stuff 24/7. They're consuming, and they're being exposed to a content that we maybe our generation never saw from that young age. It's right there at their fingertips, and they're seeing it. It's being filtered to them, and so these are real risks. All right, so let's get into what cyberbullying is. So the definition I use is the use of internet and related technologies to harm other people in a deliberate, repeated, and hostile manner. This is a repeated course of conduct, okay? And here's the interesting thing. Common cyberbullying targets are kids aged 10 to 12 years old. So as you can see, it's starting much younger than what we think it is. It's not just high school kids that are getting cyberbullied. It's, I mean, the common age is as young as 10, okay? So let's get into some of the examples of cyberbullying. These are some of the things that we would consider cyberbullying: is creating a hate group about someone, posting mean comments about them, photoshopping someone's photo to embarrass them, to add things or to omit things, recording or posting fight videos, spreading rumors or gossips through text messages, stealing somebody's identity and creating fake profiles. This is kind of like the Catfish. If you ever heard that MTV series Catfish, if you've never seen it, I recommend it. There's also a movie on it, but that talks about catfishing and how people can misrepresent themselves online. It can be posting unwanted pictures, sending harassing text messages, and accessing private files or folders on personal computers. I always recommend that if you, I recommend shutting devices down and not having them in their actual bedroom. So if that makes sense to you, and why I say that is because in the old days, there's actual malware that you can download, and it can actually control somebody's web camera. So I could be sitting in Russia and I could be remotely accessing your child's web camera through their device that's sitting in their bedroom. So what does that mean? When they're getting dressed in the morning, I'm watching them. You can do all of that stuff. So what I'm saying is, when you're not using that device, it should be shut down. You should cover up the webcam on it. It should be either powered off completely, or you should at least cover the webcam with a piece of tape or something, like use duct tape or whatever. It should not be left on. And I don't like it being up in the bedroom, to be honest. It needs to be more regularly monitored where they are, because, you know, if they're left alone with it, their curiosity is going to be piqued and they're going to probably make poor choices. So just be aware of that. There is actual spyware out there that, you know, can be downloaded onto people's devices. And I'm not just talking laptops. I mean, nowadays we use everything, right? We use smartphones, we use tablets, we use all of that stuff. So some of the tactics that cyberbullying happens are flaming, which is messages with angry language; harassment, sending nasty, mean, or insulting messages. We, by the letter of the law, define harassment as an actual threat of physical harm. So to make it a crime under New York State penal law, you have to actually have a direct threat of physical harm towards somebody. Denigration, that's dissing someone online or posting gossip or rumors. Then we have impersonation, pretending to be someone else, posting material to get that person in trouble. Outing, sharing someone's secrets or embarrassing information about them or images about them. Trickery, talking someone into revealing secrets or sharing things about themselves online. Exclusion, obviously, just like it sounds, intentionally excluding someone from an online group. And cyber stalking, repeated harassment that creates a significant fear to their safety or material harm, or that of their families, because blackmail is real, definitely happens. So some of the things you can look for if somebody is the victim of cyberbullying, what it might look like is they might stop using the computer or cell phone. They might act nervous when they're receiving messages or text message. They may seem uneasy about going to school. They may start to withdraw from friends or families. Sometimes when people are the victims of cyberbullying, those are some of the behaviors that we see. And then how can you help somebody who might be the victim of cyberbullying? What can you do? So some of the things you can do are obviously, you want to stay calm, but don't downplay the incident. Thank your child for coming to you about the cyberbullying. Review what happened together and see if there are steps the child can take to address that. Okay, let them feel like they're in the driver's seat a little bit, right? And that you're not just telling them what to do. So you need to really don't downplay it, but certainly have those open conversations. definitely save the evidence. So ask the school or the police about taking screenshots and printing out any messages. Make sure that you see proof of what was posted. Block the cyberbullies. You can do that through the actual apps you're using. You can report them through TikTok or Snapchat or whatever they're using. Tell your child not to respond to the messages and take advantage of website features that allow you to block any user who is bothering you, because there's ways you can block certain users, or you can report it through the actual website itself. Set up new accounts. This includes email, instant messenger, social media sites, and cell phone numbers. Make sure that you only give out this new information to friends that they trust. So be very limited in the group of people who have access to it. Make sure you're talking to the school. Remember, most cyberbullying involves in-person bullying, but sometimes your child will know this person. It'll be a classmate of theirs. So teachers and administrators should work together on a plan to address the bullying in school, and they might have specific rules against cyberbullying too, because sometimes it's a violation of the code of conduct of the school, even if it's not on school grounds. It depends on the circumstances, but we've had the school be able, in other cases I've had the school be able to enforce suspensions and other things for things that didn't even happen on school grounds based on it. Sometimes it goes beyond that. And then obviously report it. This cyber tip line, if that's through the missing and exploited children, they have a cyber tip line. I always say you can report to that. I'll talk to that a little bit further, but that's a great place to report if you have a child that's a victim of cyberbullying. All right, going on. So some behaviors that we see common amongst the actual cyber bullies themselves, the people who are doing the bullying. They might quickly switch screens or close programs when you walk in the room. They might want to use the computer at all hours of the day. They generally are upset if they can't use the computer. They get really angry if they lose that privilege. They might avoid discussions about what they're doing online, and they might have multiple different accounts set up that they're using. So those are some of the things that you might look for. All right, and how to prevent it is basically establish expectations for online behavior. Make sure your child knows that you think bullying and cyberbullying are unacceptable. Set consequences for the cyberbullying. This will vary by family, but it can include losing internet privileges or more supervised social media usage. Model good online behavior. Children learn from adults around them, so always be respectful to others online. So what we're doing, we have to be cognizant if we're staring at our device all the time as well. They're going to mimic and watch that behavior. So there's a few things there. And then again, talking to your children about being upstanders, not just bystanders. Bystanders, somebody who witnesses bullying and has opportunity to help, but may or may not because they may be fearful of retribution or other things. Upstanders are people who will stand up for the people that are being bullied and stand up to the bully and do it in a safe way. I mean, it could be leaving a note to the teacher on the back of an assignment. It could be dropping something at the school library. There's safe ways to report it. So certainly encouraging them to be an upstander as opposed to just a bystander. All right. So what's the difference between regular bullying and cyberbullying? The difference is it spreads a lot faster. It reaches a much wider audience, and it can follow the children home. Bullying is not a new concept. It happened for years and years. My parents and my grandparents, bullying was there. The difference is that it's the best way I describe it is kind of like pressure. If I have a balloon in my hands and I'm pushing on the balloon, eventually if I keep pushing and putting that pressure on, eventually the balloon's going to pop. And that's what it is with cyberbullying, because these kids will have a horrible day. They might be getting picked on in school. Then they go home, turn on their device thinking that it's going to bring them happiness. And it does the opposite, because the bullying it just continues. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no break from it. There's no escape from it. There's no downtime from it. So that is what's causing that really severe consequence we're seeing, because that pressure is just so tremendous. There was bullying. They'd come home and then they would have several hours of downtime, right? I mean, they might have got bullied. It doesn't make it right, but they might have been bullied at school, and then they come home and now they have family dinner, they have chores, they do things, and they don't see those kids, and they have several hours of downtime. Now there is no downtime. There is no escape from it unless we're powering off those devices and not just living our lives through devices, because we're missing out on all beautiful things around us. All right. So some safe ways that they can report cyberbullying. Don't respond or forward to them, because these kids don't understand that sometimes they can be guilty by association. So when they're clicking likes on things that they see that are inappropriate, they can be grouped into the group that, to the person who's being bullied, it feels like there's a whole gang mentality and that they're an island floating out in the middle of nowhere and they have nobody because everybody's joining in. So even by clicking like on inappropriate things, they could be dragged into something that could be guilty by association. And then I think the rest is pretty much self-explanatory. You can kind of read that over. I'm not gonna, in the essence of time, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so personal data. What are we giving out about ourselves and what is too much? Okay, so some of the common things that we give out by ourselves are addresses, financial information, passwords, phone numbers, schedules, email addresses, all of those things. All right, so here's an example of how dangerous this can be. Like, there was like a 14-year-old girl that had posted details about a birthday party that she was having online. She posted it, and it was crashed by over 800 people that showed up that were uninvited, and they did over $48,000 worth of damage. So what are we giving out about ourselves? What kind of information that we don't even know we're giving out? So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen like the Facebook surveys where you do some like little fun survey with your friends, like, oh, what's your favorite food? Where do you like to go on vacation? All of those things. Well, think about how much information you're just giving out about yourself by doing that. Or I'm sure you all know that one person that posts 12 times a day, right? That I ate this for breakfast, or that I, you know, every little thing that they do in their life, they're posting about it. You are telegraphing a ton of information that somebody online could take advantage and use against you. All right, so here's a little video about geotags. If you don't know about geotags, this is something very, very important. So basically what happens is if you have the location services activated on your device, and if you don't know where to find them, you can go under the settings and on your phone, the general settings, and you should find where location services are. Location services are the things that we use, like say I want to go tag myself in at somewhere. I'm at Panera Bread and I want to tag in so other people around me know that I'm at Panera. Or maybe I use my location services because I want walking directions to get to a nearby park, and it tells me turn left here and turn right there. Okay, those are location services. Well, if the location services are activated on your device, what happens is even when you're taking photos, so for example, if I pull out my phone right now and I take a quick snapshot, I take a picture of this chair I'm sitting in. Okay, it seems pretty innocent. I go ahead and I post that on one of my social media accounts. Okay, that picture. Well, buried within that picture is now geographic information. So what's in there is the latitude and longitude of where that picture was taken, the date where it was taken, the time where it was taken. All of that information is accessible just from the photo of a chair. So why is that so important? Is because if your kids are taking a picture when they get home of the stuffed animal sitting on their bed, okay, they might just have given out your home address to somebody they didn't want to give it out to. For me in law enforcement, I'm over in the school, say somebody doesn't like police officers. Okay, I'm over teaching an assembly to 7th graders. There's 300 of them in the room. And I just take a picture in that room. I may have just given out exactly my location within that school building. So now if somebody doesn't like me, they know where I am. So geotags, hidden geographical information in photographs and in text messages is real. And here's a little video about it.
Social networking makes it easy to share pictures with your friends and family online.
Millions of people post photographs on blogs, Twitter, and other networking sites. But are you giving up your privacy every time you post a picture? The answer is yes, and a lot of people aren't aware of it, but those who are don't like it.
I don't want people to know, random people to know where I am. It's kind of not safe.
See, there's a lot of danger. You're just giving up everything.
Of course. Who wants to be stalked? Really?
In a KXAN investigation, our Chris Willis joins us with more on how your smartphone can let anyone in the world know who you are and where you are.
Robert, Leslie, we do it and we don't even think about it. Snap a picture and post it online. In fact, I just did. But as soon as I post this photo, the information attached to it will let anyone in the world know the time it was taken, the date it was taken, and the spot that it was taken. In fact, they can pinpoint the location anywhere in the world within 15 feet. Like it or not, it's a social networking world. And many of us have no problem posting snapshots of our lives on the internet for the world to see.
Pretty common because I get pictures of my niece all the time.
They're posting everything on the internet anyway.
Just parties, just everyday life, and you just take a picture.
Those pictures, though, come with more than just a smile. In fact, those pictures also include the time of day, the date it was taken, even the latitude and longitude of where it was taken, including your home or where you work. It's called a geotag, and it doesn't take a computer scientist to track your location within 15 feet.
I think your average 15-year-old who's moderately interested in computers could do this.
UT professor Andrew Blumberg is an expert in locational privacy. He says people have been lulled into a false sense of security about privacy expectations.
It's harder and harder to live a normal life in public without revealing a tremendous amount of data about where you go and where you are.
Blumberg says something as simple as posting a picture online puts a huge amount of your private information out there for anyone who wants it. Case in point, this guy, Ben Jackson.
When you start looking at someone's geotags over a period of time, you can start telling where people live, where people work.
He started the website icanstalkyou.com. And to prove how easy it is, he takes random pictures posted online and using the geotag attached to the photo can pinpoint a person's location to within 15 feet anywhere in the world. It's a reality that's getting the attention of law enforcement.
Find a way to unplug the data so that strangers across the world are unaware of who you are and where you're located.
Attorney General Greg Abbott says parents need to pay attention to the photos their kids are posting online, but they also need to watch what they're sharing. While your family and friends may love the pictures you post while on vacation, so do potential thieves.
It shows a thief that you're a long distance away from your home. Now would be a convenient time to break in.
Well, luckily there is an easy fix. You can disable the geotag on your phone with a couple of easy steps. This is the iPhone 4. You want to go to Settings and then click on General, and from there go to Location Services, and then you can turn off the geotags on your camera. It's not just the iPhone, though. You can disable geotags on any smartphone. We've posted step-by-step instructions.
All right, so that video is very dated, but I think it's a good one. That's why I still put it in there because it's an older video, so don't mock the old iPhone that they're using. But as you can see, it's a real thing. Those geotags give out a lot of information, and you can find out a lot about somebody just by doing that. And that's what I'm trying to say is there's so many ways that we have to be careful with how we're protecting our information. So too much information. What are we giving out about ourselves? We kind of talked about that before. I'm going to skip over that. So here are some of the risks of sharing too much personal information online. Okay. Identity theft, the first one. I want you to know that many identity thefts will actually target children because they're less likely to notice it until the child is older when they, might apply for their first credit card. So they're good victims, right? Because time can go by and they've stolen that information before it even gets discovered. So they will target them. Then there's online scams. They may be tricked into sharing passwords or visiting inappropriate websites by promising them prizes or money or other things like that. Hacking, sharing passwords and other account details can result in someone hacking into your child's accounts and pretending to be them or stealing files and other information you store on your computer. I don't know if you guys know, but it's very sophisticated nowadays. You could go on and think you're shopping at Macy's website for a Christmas gift. And there's a website out there that looks just like Macy's and it's stealing. And it's almost, it takes a computer expert to sit there and compare the two to figure out which one's the real website and which one's a fake website. But the one might be stealing your identity, so you think you're ordering something for Macy's for a Christmas gift for somebody or whatever holiday you might celebrate. And it turns out that actually it's stealing your identity. So you got to be very, very careful with this stuff. There's online enticement. It's people communicating with a child via the internet and with the intent to commit a sexual offense or abduction with them. Human trafficking is real. It's a broad category, but it can also be trying to groom a child to take sexually explicit images, to meet face-to-face with them for sexual purpose, or to sell or trade the child's sexual images for profit. And then there's sextortion, a new online exploitation crime directed towards children in which non-physical forms of coercion are used, such as blackmail to acquire sexual content from the child, engage in sex with the child, or obtain money from the child and their family. So that's kind of what sextortion is. So there's many examples of that. So blackmail is real. If you don't, the kids will be terrified. If you don't tell your parents about this could happen. This will affect your family. I'll share this without your consent. And they'll be enticed to do things because of the fear of those consequences. All right, so what can you do to help your kids from revealing too much personal information? Number one, establish rules about what they can share, okay? Number two, learn about reporting options. What are some of the things they can do? Each website has its own tools to report issues, such as stolen passwords or hacked accounts. So make sure you're reporting all of that. Check your privacy settings. You should help your kids set up their accounts and check their privacy settings often and make sure they're using these settings that offer the most protection for them. Help them create strong passwords, not just the same password, easy, make them complicated, use different symbols, use capitalization, lowercase, all of that. Make sure they're really complicated passwords. And talk to them about controlling their friends list. I mean, nowadays it's a ego thing where I got to say, oh, I'm friends with 3,225 people. But how many of those are really friends? You know what I mean? What I mean by the word friends, how many of them are truly friends and not just acquaintances that they barely know anything about? So making sure that they control their friends list to actually, to people that they truly actually know in person that have regular communication with is an important thing, not letting it get out of hand and have too many people on there. So we know what identity theft is, but there's different forms of it, phishing and spyware. There's key logging software where they're actually downloading, like the kids click on something, it downloads a virus onto their computer that's actually recording the keystrokes they're hitting. So if they're putting in a credit card to order something, or they're putting in their school password or school ID or whatever they're doing online, that is recording all of that. So it's memorizing it. It's recording the keystrokes, and it can steal somebody's identity that way. So it's very complex. I mean, the easiest way is people will say to me, like, how do I know? Like, they ask me all the time, well, how did somebody steal my identity? That's like an impossible question for me to answer, because in this day and age, there's 1,000,001 ways. It may not be, I don't know if you know this, but like garbage is fair game. So what I mean by that is if you're not shredding documents, but you're putting in your recycling, you can call the police and say somebody's going through my garbage or somebody's going through my recycling. There's nothing I can do about it. So make sure you're not putting anything with private details out in the garbage, because anybody can go through that, and that's fair game. But that's just, dumpster diving is just one very, very archaic method. There's so many other methods nowadays. I mean, think about it. You go to a restaurant, you pay with a debit card, credit card. Do they run that card right in front of you at the table? No, they take it in the back somewhere, run it through a machine, and bring it back to you, and you sign it, right? Well, they could have run it through a skimming machine, and they just stole your card number, and they can make a dummy card with it. So there's 1,000,001 ways, but it's always a hard question of figuring out how they got it or why they stole it. Those are the questions I can't answer, but it's real. All right, so keep going. I got some other really good stuff to get to. So inappropriate content that these kids are posting online. They're showing drinking and drug use, using hate speech, lewd or offensive gestures, profanity, revealing images, making threats, pornography, excessive violence. All of those things are kind of some of the online stuff that we're seeing. And, it can be as simple as, even myself, I give you a prime example. So years ago, when I was a young police officer, I have an older sister, and she had a baby shower. We had a baby shower for her on a Sunday morning at a place that serves coffee and tea. Okay. And we went to this party, and there was no alcohol there. It was just a baby shower. And the place actually served the water in what looked like a wine glass, so it was like a wine glass. And this was years ago. So I had a Facebook account on a personal level, and somebody snapped a picture of me holding what was actually just water in what looked like to be a wine glass at this party. And it got posted online. I didn't post it. Somebody else posted it. And weeks went by, and I actually got called into my police chief's office one day and wanted to know why, as a law enforcement official, I was putting up pictures promoting drinking alcohol on my page. Well, it turns out that it was that posted picture, which was just water it was just water. But see, things can be misconstrued. So what I'm saying is be very, very careful about what they're putting up there. All right. Again, how should you respond to them? Like, you should not frighten them. Okay. You don't want to frighten them. You want to listen attentively. You want to tell them it's not their fault. You want to answer any questions they have and help them report it. That's what you want to do. And what they need to do is they should turn off their screen if they come across something inappropriate. They should use their back button to back out of it. They should tell a trusted adult. They should report it to the website or app. And they can also report it to the National Missing and Exploited Children Cyber Tip Line, which is listed down there below. Those are all things that they can do and things that you can do. All right. So sexting, let's get into sexting, what it is. Sending or posting nude or partially nude images. Research suggests that 15% of teens have sexted. 27% of teens say they have received a sext from somebody. So here's a little video for you that we'll take a quick look at.
Teenagers across the country are finding themselves in deep trouble. They're facing criminal charges when they're caught doing something called sexting. That's exchanging naked or semi-naked photos of themselves or others. High School Musical star Vanessa Hudgens learned that inappropriate photos can end up where you don't want them. But 6 teenagers at Greensburg-Salem High School in Greensburg, Pennsylvania are learning an even harder lesson this week. 3 girls allegedly sent nude photos to 3 teenage boys, and all 6 now face charges of child pornography.
I just think these pictures are they're outrageous. I mean, I can't believe them. I saw them and I was just shocked.
And while it may be shocking, it is not unusual. The concept of sending nude photos via text message is known to high schoolers as sexting. And according to a nationwide survey, around 20% of teens admit to participating. Still, what most teens don't know is there can be legal repercussions. In October, a Texas 8th grader spent a night in juvenile detention after his football coach found a nude picture on his cell phone that a fellow student had sent him. For now, the investigation in Pennsylvania continues, and police say more charges could be filed.
It's very dangerous, and it can come back and harm not only the victim that took the picture, but their families.
We're joined by Lisa Bloom, CBS News legal analyst. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think of this?
Well, technically, they are violating the letter of the law. Anyone who distributes or possesses child pornography, naked pictures of underage kids, and that's what we're talking about, is looking at child porn charges. By the way, this is a serious felony. They could be facing many years in prison. They could have to register as sex offenders for the rest of their lives.
It says one in 5 kids are doing this
Right.
sort
So
of
what are
stuff.
we going to do? Lock up 20% of America's teenagers? I think.
Should they be prosecuted?
I don't think they should be. I think parents and teachers should be reprimanding them, but kids need to be aware. These are very serious charges. Our child porn laws don't make an exception if you take a picture of yourself, if you're underage when you distribute.
What kind of penalties are you talking about here?
So we're talking about potentially several years behind bars, although they are being prosecuted as juveniles. So it'll probably be much less. And I would suspect that this is a first offense. It won't be that
They could
serious.
become convicted sex offenders.
That's right.
They would be permanently on a list.
Register as sex offenders.
You can't
under
live in
Megan's
this
law.
apartment building. You have to live in the sex offender ghetto section of your
Yeah,
neighborhood.
Megan's law would apply to them. Our child porn laws are very strict in this country. And so teenagers need to be aware of that. Once these pictures are out, by the way, you can't get them back. Once they're on the internet, once they're out there, as many people have learned, you can't get them back. So teenagers really need to be aware.
Best advice to parents. They're sitting there with their kids, because none of them take any of this seriously.
No, and I think we all have to remember when we were teenagers and we did stupid things. Parents need to grab the cell phones of their teenagers, look at the pictures, be aware of what's on there, and delete anything that's objectionable right away.
Lisa Bloom, as always, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Okay, again, another kind of old video. I hate to pull the old ones, but sometimes they're just kind of good and what kind of the basis of it. So I can tell you from my job as an investigator here, I can tell you that on a weekly basis, I'm involved with a sexting case, at least one, if not multiples, on my desk at any given point. It is very prevalent. I'm not just talking about high schoolers here. I'm talking about middle schoolers, guys. This is, they are doing this more regularly than you would ever imagine. And the consequences are not just for the person who took the picture of themselves and shared it. It could be for the person who asked them to do it. It could be for the ones that continue to share it and disseminate it, and disseminating indecent material to minors is the charge that we typically go with under New York State penal law. So this is a really big one for guilty by association, where it can affect multiple people, and that it goes viral. I mean, it goes viral, like within a very short period of time. One picture that somebody shares with somebody that they think they're in a relationship with, and next thing you know, it's everywhere, and it's well beyond the school. It goes much wider, to the point where they're trying to apply for a job and they can't get one down the road, or trying to get into colleges. Sexting is probably, out of everything I'm talking about today, even more than cyberbullying and some of the other things I'm going to talk to, it's kind of the hot button issue right now that I'm seeing a lot of it. So why are teens doing it? So why are they sexting? They're doing
and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to flag that we do have some questions that have come in the chat. So as we're nearing 1 o'clock, I'm happy to share those with you.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry, do you want me to dive in, or do you want me to let you wrap up your slide here?
Let me just wrap up this little section on sexting, and then I'll answer those questions real quick, okay? Perfect. So the reason they're doing it is to be funny, to impress somebody that they have a crush on, peer pressure, or they might be threatened. They might be experimenting with relationships, sexual behavior, and boundaries. So those are some of the reasons we see that's why it's happening. And we already kind of went over this, but some of the things that the revealing image might get into, it can get lost or misplaced, get passed around without the child's permission, be used to bully the child or teen, and to blackmail them, and all of those things, and to get them in trouble. So there's pretty severe consequences of sexting. It can be humiliation, bullying, blackmail, school discipline, police involvement, and worst case scenario, depression and or suicide attempts. So with that ending, I know some of you have already maybe seen this video, but I think it's a good one to end with, and then I'll get real quick with the questions. So the next video I'm going to show you is, you've probably seen this, and this is probably not to leave you with a depressing video, but I have a whole nother section. I'm going to run out of time today, so I have a whole bunch of things to talk about, but this is a video that was filmed back on September 7th of 2012. Okay, which is meant a long time ago, but it involves somebody named Amanda Todd. And I know some of you have seen this video, but I think it's a good one to show how sexting can be have pretty severe consequences. So we'll get into that.
There's no one in doubt, I know. You gave us some place to go. I never said thank you for that. Thought it might get on my chance. What would you think of me now? So lucky, so strong, so proud. Never said thank you for that. Now I never have a chance. May angels lead you. Here you meet now. On sleepless love, sleepless love. So what would you think of me now? So lucky, so strong, so proud. Never said thank you for that. Now I'll never have a chance. May angels lead you. Here you mean nothing. On sleepless roads, the sleepless go. May angels lead you. If you were with me tonight, Singing to you just one more time. A song for my heart so big. God wouldn't let it have made angels lead you in. Here you made my friend. Our feet left the feet left home.
Okay, so that video, hard to see, but if you're not familiar with that, it's an old one. But like I said, it was filmed on September 7th, 2012. That was Amanda Todd. Amanda died by suicide on October 10th, 2012, which is about exactly a month later. She had basically bore her breast on a webcam stream, and a stranger saved the frames using a screen capturing tool. And he later blackmailed her with it, threatening to give the photo to her friends unless she gave him a show. So that topless photo really followed Amanda to the point where she had tried to change various different schools to improve the situation. And the whole thing ended up to the point where obviously it had that tragic outcome. But I think it's an important one to show that sexting is real. When I tell you this, I can't stress it enough on how this is happening on a regular basis, that this is, I am dealing with these cases all the time. So, especially now with COVID, I feel like where they've been more isolated from their peers, and they've forgotten how to be in a school setting amongst each other, how to treat other human beings. It seems like it's only been an uptick in it. So there are things that we can do about it. We really need to talk to them about the consequences and realize that there is no way. These things are permanent. They think Snapchats go away. I mean, these kids will tell me all the time, oh yeah, I think that they go away. I'm like, no, they go away on your side, but trust me, I can get a subpoena and I can get all of that information through a court order. You know, it doesn't go away. It's permanently there. So talk about healthy relationships, talk about that these are, you know, it doesn't matter who's pressuring them, and even possessing it. By them possessing it and having this image that was shared with them, you know, or disseminating it, sharing it with others, like they're in that, it's guilty by association, and it can really have lasting impacts down the road. And I go and have discussions every day with teenagers on this and with their families, and that are, you know, now have had the harsh reality of experiencing what that can do to somebody. So with that, I know I'm on time, so I would love to answer a couple questions. And then if I don't know, you can leave this up to there, but I do have more to present. So if anyone wants to stay, I'm willing to do that. If not, I can just answer questions and end here.
Great. Well, I can sum up for you some of the questions that we have in the chat, if that's helpful. Okay. Maybe we can start by addressing those for whoever can stay on. Let's see, there's a couple questions about geotagging. So if it's okay to just turn it off for photos, specifically, can we keep location on for things like maps? And what about using GPS to verify your child's location when they're going to school, for example?
Okay, so I would say I guess I can't speak for every device. It depends on the type of device, but I believe that you really only have an option of either turning the location services on or off. I don't think you can specify I want it on for this function and off for that function. It depends on, you know, it depends on how your phone is set up. So, I mean, it may be something that has to go back and forth on. If you need it for a period of time, you can turn it on, but I would be my biggest worry is, I mean, it can also affect text messages and other things like that, but where I'm seeing it most utilized is on the photo realm, is on photographs that are taken with our devices. So that's where I'm seeing it. And you can actually go in and look, like if you were to Google search geotags and how to look them up and stuff and how to find it in a picture, you'll be able to look up, there's actually websites that you can go to, and I can dump people's photos in there and I can find out where they were taken. So there's open source like websites you go on. So I think you have to either slide it on or off. I don't think you can specify per app which one you want to use it on, but I could be wrong with that depending on which kind of device you have. So I think it's probably one that you're going to have to decide whether you just want to leave it in a permanent off state or you want to turn it on and off as needed.
There's also a couple questions about specific apps. So one is about YouTube, how you feel about the safety of a child posting their own YouTube videos showing themselves, for example, gaming, sharing the screen with the game in their face. And then there was a separate question about the Photo Vault app and how can we figure out if an app really isn't an app and it's just that Photo Vault?
Well, I mean, an easy archaic way of figuring that out without having to do a lot to be really tech savvy would be go and click on the actual, all the little apps on their phone, on their screen. And if you think you click on one and it brings you into a passcode for it, you're going to know that might not be what it appears to be because they're passcode protected. So it's an easy way to do it. Although I'm sure you can, under the settings, look up the specifications of that specific app. And I'm sorry, can you go back to the first question again? What was the first one I think you said?
Yep, the first one was about the YouTube and how you feel about the safety of kids using that.
It's hard for me to try to differentiate because I'm a parent myself and I obviously work in a professional role, and I don't want to sound that I'm so anti-technology because I'm not. But at the same time, I don't like it very much, to be honest. I don't let my kids even use the YouTube Kids or anything like that, just because even there's sometimes there'll be content filtered in there that tricks you, and you think you're watching a Peppa Pig video, and next thing you know, they're watching some kind of adult content. So I don't really I put as little out there as possible about myself because I try not to telegraph, as much, and I do that with my kids as well by choice. I guess if they really want to do it and you don't want to limit them, then I think you really have to look at, I have a slide later on technology and some advancements there. I think you really have to look at how your settings are set and who has access to it. So you really have to kind of tighten that up. If you're going to do it, then it has to be as restrictive as possible, is my opinion.
Great. And then lastly, from a parent of kids ages 10 and 12, no phones yet, but they have access to the computer in the main part of the home. The question is, what kinds of guidelines can we set for our children to give them independence and show trust, but also setting strict limits and checking on their devices?
Yeah, the best example that I can give is you want them to be able to talk to you. You want to be approachable, because the minute you start being too strict or too, talking about consequences or whatever, they're going to shut down and they're not going to come to you. So you want to be approachable. You want to have some trust in, being able to trust them and give them some independence. My opinion is kind of, I'm very old school on this, I guess, but I don't believe that they need technology until at a much older age, because the way I look at it is like, we don't sit there and hand a 12-year-old keys to a Ferrari and say, go have fun. Or here's your 10-year-old, here's the keys to this high-end Ferrari, go without any driving lessons, and here you go have fun with it. But yet we're giving them keys to access to a content that is very beyond their age. And I understand you could say I'm old school and I'm not of the opinion that that my kids are going to be out of it. But honestly, if you talk to a lot of teachers and educators and administrators at schools, they're going to tell you that there's been kids that have gotten technology given to them and access to it at a much later age, and they still excelled and went on to great, wonderful futures and careers. So I think if you are going to give it to them, you really have to have open conversations with them, monitor what they're doing on a regular basis, make sure they're doing it in open, public places where you can watch and kind of monitor that, where they're not going to hidden areas and in the wee hours of the night, sitting all night on their phone and doing the stuff behind where you have no idea what they're doing. And especially if you're not really tech savvy, you got to become more of it. And you need to do your own homework, because they're walking circles around us. So they're much more advanced with this than we are. So it's really being open, not being accusatory of them. Don't blame them for things. Just tell them that you love them and this is why you care, because you want to see the best for them. And I think having that is a good starting point.
Great. And two final very quick questions. One is just whether you could repeat where on the iPhone you can access the geotagging.
Yep. So on the iPhone, you would go under your settings on the front, and then I think it's under general, and then it's under I'm trying to look as I'm going here. I will, is it possible, because I'm trying to do it as we speak, is it possible that I could send an email to this group with the specific instructions and then you could share it with this group? Is that possible?
Definitely. And then the other question was actually whether you're willing to share your PowerPoint slides. So if you are, we could share that all together with the participants.
Yeah, I have a whole, just so you know what I didn't get to today, is I had a section on how online solicitations occur when we get into grooming and things like that. I have a section on that and how to keep your kids safe from predatory offenders. I also talked about tech options, that there are safety things that you can do from a tech standpoint, such as installing filtering and monitoring software, talking to your cell phone providers and putting restrictions on there. I have a whole segment on that. I have a segment on what it means to have digital citizenship, what that is. And then I kind of ended with some critical cyber safety lessons and internet safety guidelines that I like to leave people with. And then that's kind of the remainder of the things I didn't get to today that were also in this presentation. So I'd be happy to share that.
Great. And I know you offered to stay on. I'm seeing someone says I can stay if others can. What do you think? Lisa, I see you're unmuted. Do you have thoughts about that?
I was sorry. I was just going to add that this is our second meeting like this that we've had for Jewish Family Services, and we're thinking of having another obviously in 2022 that's geared towards preteens and teens. So we'll see if Renee's available and talking actually to the children. So if that is something that interests you, we will be sending out an email and we'll ask your opinion on that. Obviously we would need your help to get your children to the call. Right now, I don't think in-person is really an option because, of course, in-person would be great and we could offer them food and we know that would get them there. But we will be sending you an email to that effect. So just please watch out for that. And if you think that would be of interest to you and your family, please do indicate so. I don't know, do we have people from JFS that are able to stay on? I think that's more because I know you guys have busy schedules, so.
I was going to say I could stay on a little bit longer. I think I'm attached as a co-host, so if others need to drop off, I could.
Maybe we say 10 more minutes or something, yeah. Betsy, just so you're not.
Sure, that sounds good. That's great. And if anyone needs to drop off, thank you so much for attending. I also wanted to thank Lisa, who's our JFS board member, who helped organize this. And of course, thank you to Investigator Fisher for the wonderful presentation. So I will say goodbye to anyone who needs to sign off. And if people are able to stay 10 more minutes, I'd love to hear more content. So thank you.
Yes, and same here. So those of you that have to leave, I'm not at all offended. I understand. I'm sorry that we got a little late start today. I will be happy to provide Lisa and Betsy with my direct phone number and information, email address here at the police department. So you can always reach out to me. I would love to be a resource to you guys. And like I said, I will give those specific instructions on how to do it with an Android device and an Apple device in regards to changing your settings to correct your location services so that you're not giving that geotag information out. So I'll do that, but thank you. And I will continue for those of you that have a little bit more. I got another 10 minutes here. And if you don't, that's fine. If you have to leave at any point, please just do so. So let me go on with sexting. So, all right. So let's talk about how do solicitations occur, online solicitations. The majority of sexual solicitations and aggressive solicitations occur among older teens. Most teens are solicited by their peers or young adults in a very casual way and report not being very bothered by it. Because initially it doesn't come across as really crude and abrasive initially. It's usually very subtle. So most of them will say, yeah, I my peers do that, but I don't think anything of it, right? Because it starts very subtly. Many of them simply remove themselves from the situation by blocking the person who sent the inappropriate request or asking them to stop or leaving the site. So a lot of them will just kind of self-address it, but it can continue. And they will look for vulnerabilities in people. Like I said, it occurs mostly with older teens and it occurs most from their peers, slightly like peers of similar age or slightly older. So how do offenders groom children? They do so by exploiting their natural curiosity, gradually introducing explicit images. They don't just bombard them with it. It's very subtle. Like I said, it's a slow process. They use adult status to control a child's behavior. They might offer gifts like cell phones or gift cards or other things that they might try to lure them, and slowly they're, in some kind of online communication with somebody, and this person is flattering them and giving them what they want to hear, especially if they're in a hard place in their life and they're kind of in a dark place. That's when we see some of those vulnerabilities get taken advantage of. So says it is important to note that sexual exploitation and abuse does not always involve grooming. All inappropriate and exploitive behaviors need to be addressed and reported, however. All right, so signs that signs of grooming. Check if your child is receiving gifts from somebody, calling unknown numbers, rejecting their family and friends, getting upset when they're not online, or minimizing their screen in your presence. Those are some of the key, telltale signs that obviously it could be grooming, or that they could be in some kind of inappropriate online relationship. So here's a little video about grooming. This is, again, another old one. I pulled some of the old ones. I mean, I have some newer ones too, but I like some of these older ones because this is kind of when it first became a shock and awe kind of thing in the media. So this is a good one about grooming and what can happen. Oh, I skipped it. Hold on. Go back. Try that again.
Actually admits it's likely he would have taken the virginity of a 13-year-old girl if she was willing.
Hey, I'm up here.
He's 20-year-old Cody Green, screen name Perfect Buddy Georgia. He's been chatting online with a girl posing as a 13-year-old virgin named Maddie Girl 92. He tells the decoy, "I definitely appreciate being your first." The decoy says, "Really? You don't mind I'm a virgin?" Perfect Buddy answers, "If you don't mind me taking it from you, I actually would love it and never have been with a virgin." Perfect Buddy then sends not one, but 8 different pictures of his genitals. The chat lasts for 2 days. And then he shows up at our house.
Yeah, I made some tea and it's on the table.
He tries to follow the decoy. Should have a seat right in that chair. Instead, he runs into me.
Lisa, I really drove this far for no reason.
You drove this far for no reason.
So
Perfect Buddy says he was really just looking for a friend, nothing more. But then his story seems to change.
Please, I swear, sir, I'm a desperate person. I need a girl in my life, and if she really wanted to be my friend, that would be all I needed from her.
She said she was 13.
She did. I'm sorry, sir. I have interest in younger girls. That is just been a fantasy of mine.
A fantasy?
Yes, sir.
Do you know it violates Georgia law?
Yes, sir.
Did you say you are ready to have my thang in your mouth?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
Are you ready to have my in your mouth? Because she was going with it. She was.
Oh, so she wanted it.
That's what it seemed like to me. It's not her fault at all.
She made you come over here.
I came here for reasons like that, but if she really didn't want us, sir, I swear to you, I would have never tried it.
But if she was open to the idea,
yes,
you would have had sex with a 13-year-old girl.
Probably, yeah. I'm sorry, I know you think it's bad, but that's what it is, and that would be probably the cleanest, best pleasure, I would say.
The cleanest, best pleasure is to have sex with a 13-year-old girl.
Listen, are you her father or something like that?
I'll get to that in a minute.
Please tell me this, sir. Am I going to be in trouble for this?
Yeah, I want to ask you one more question. You said you had to go see your PO.
Yes, sir.
Your parole officer.
Yes, sir.
What are you on parole for?
I got a DUI.
Anything else?
I got a hit and run charge the other day.
A hit and run charge?
Yes, sir.
So you get DWI, a hit and run charge. Well, that's something you got to know. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
Yes, sir.
We're doing stories on adults who try to meet teens on the internet for sex. So what happens to these men after they're arrested?
On the ground! On the ground! On the ground!
You'll hear more incredible revelations.
All right, so as you can see, that was a 13-year-old girl, and he didn't see anything wrong with it in his book. It was more of her fault, as he kind of said, well, she wanted it and everything. So there's people out there like him. Here he's on parole, and he's already agreeing to meet up with a 13-year-old for that reason. So all right. So what can you do to keep your kids safe from predatory offenders? All right. So first of all, you want to talk to them about what makes a healthy relationship. You want to have an open door policy so that they don't have to seek answers in inappropriate relationships online. Like I said, it's having them trust you and feel that they can come to you as a resource. That's something you really want to do. You got to keep in mind that many teens are flattered by attention from older people. So make it clear that a 22-year-old flirting with them is not flattering at all. It's inappropriate. You have to make it clear. You have to be really specific in that. Like there's a difference because they might like the attention. It might feel good, right? You want to start, like I said, at all ages, start with young children and start having these conversations and move up. You don't want to just wait till all of a sudden they're already at a nearly grown age to now start having these conversations. Know who your child has friends with online. Who are their online friends? Encourage them to not just request to accept every friend request that they get. Know who these people are. Limit that friend list. So they shouldn't just be allowing people that they really don't know on a level. Teach your child the warning signs, talk to them about grooming and ways people might try to manipulate them, and all of those things. So we'll keep going here. Some text options. I know I kind of went over this a little bit. So you can install filtering and monitoring software. So these can help protect your children from seeing sexually explicit content online and even notify you if you've received inappropriate messages. You can go to, there's a website, www.getnetwise.org, to search for the software that best fits your needs. So that's a website. Again, it's www.getnetwise.org. And you can search for that, but there's actual monitoring and filtering software that you can put on. So some of them will actually notify you as a parent when your child receives something that would be inappropriate. You can consult with your cell phone service provider. They may offer monitoring options for your child's cell phone. Something you can look into. You can research options for mobile devices, whether it be laptops, tablets, handheld games, and MP3 players that may have built-in monitoring options or software that you can purchase for those. You want to look at the individual apps that your child is using. Many apps have the option to turn off chat features or to limit who can see what your child posts within the app. So under that same settings screen, you can go into each specific app and you can restrict that app even further, you know what I mean, from its original manufacturer settings. So you can put it be even more restrictive on that. And I recommend the more restrictive, the better. You can explore built-in secondary features of a program or website. They often have their own privacy or filtering services. For example, Google has a free safe search option. Each website or app has different privacy and filtering settings, so you can consult each one to help you better understand how that particular system works. But there's tech options out there, like I said, whether it be some kind of monitoring or filtering capability or restricting the settings, those are all things that we would recommend. So what is responsible digital citizenship? That's having the online social skills to take part in online community life in an ethical and respectful way. So it's being able to be respectful and expect respect in return, protect your reputation, protect your privacy, watch your tone, and be skeptical, because we believe everything. I mean, if you've ever seen on Netflix that series called The Social Experiment, if you haven't seen it, I highly suggest it, because you'll see how much content is being filtered to us just by the things we're clicking on. And so you have to be really skeptical because there's a lot of things out there that are giving misinformation. All right, so some last critical cyber safety lessons. What's posted online stays online, even with involving law enforcement. If you need to, obviously we can write a report, we can launch an investigation, we can consider any criminal charges and do all of that. But remember, the content, I don't have a magical wand that I can make it all come back. It goes and it gets cast into this huge worldwide network, which it's impossible for me to pull it back from. It's okay to talk about your internet use and to teach them that it's okay to talk about what they're doing online and that they have a safe place with you to do that in. You want to keep their passwords a secret, so they shouldn't be giving them out to friends. All of that stuff. They'd be really careful with how you're doing that, where you're keeping that, and using complicated passwords. Be mindful of how you use social media, know how to deal with cyberbullying, like we talked about earlier. Ask permission before installing any new apps or downloading anything or clicking on links, because there are phishing emails where they're phishing for information. Think before you click, be respectful internet citizens, and balance is key. We're consuming too much. And we're missing out on everything else. There's something to be said for getting away from those devices and not just staring at them. And we have to have a good balance and teaching them that balance and modeling it from our side, because as parents, it's addictive to us too. So we need to model that, and they're going to learn from that. And then internet safety guidelines: don't give out personal information. No meetings with people from the internet, period. Don't send pictures without your parents' knowledge. Don't share your passwords. Don't install or download unknown software. Don't respond or forward any mean messages or click likes on things that that they see. And turn off your computer when it's not in use. I already hit on that earlier. Cover up that webcam, turn it completely off, all of that. So just so you know some of the legal consequences, everything your children do on social media is traceable, recordable, and permanent. I can get a search warrant, I can get a subpoena, I can get all the access to things even months old. Kids are, smart. I go teach in the school and they ask me like, oh, Investigator Fisher, if I use a magnet on my computer, you can't get it anymore. Or what if I smash it into a million pieces or I burn it or something? You're not gonna be able to get it. We actually have federal partners that we utilize. I went to training at the Computer Forensic Institute, which is with the United States Secret Service in Hoover, Alabama. It's a hidden place out there. And they've been able to recover things on devices that have been manipulated and destroyed in other ways, and they've still been able to get information off of it. So it's there, it's permanent. Everything we do is permanent. So some of the charges that we typically see in these type of cases, not only federal child pornography charges, stalking under New York State penal law, aggravated harassment. There's the difference between regular harassment and aggravated harassment is if I sit there face to face and say, I'm going to punch you, kick you, do whatever, I'm actually, even if I don't do it, I'm just threatening it. I'm committing a simple violation, a simple harassment, which is a violation. Aggravated harassment is using some type of electronic means to deliver that threat. Okay, so if I'm threatening somebody by electronic means, it now becomes an aggravated harassment, which is a higher level offense. We're disseminating indecent material to minors, and then there's plenty of obscenity charges within penal law that also are applicable here. These are some of the common ones that we see. So last takeaways. Okay, connect, set some ground rules, research before you buy, go beyond the normal safeguards. Okay, installing monitoring software doesn't guarantee your child will be safe online. Time, attention, and active conversation are the best tools to protect them. Report. If your kids are dealing with cyberbullying or potential online enticement, report it to the website, cell phone provider, law enforcement, and the school, and use that national missing and exploited cyber tip line that I mentioned earlier. Learn. Okay, know the platforms. Online enticement happens across all platforms. So be aware of the sites, games, and apps your child frequents. Ask them to show you how they use them. Be proactive. Teach your kids to spot common tricks used by online offenders. The most common tactics used to entice a child online are engaging a child in sexual conversation or role play, directly asking the child for sexually explicit images of themselves, developing a rapport with the child through compliments and other supportive behaviors such as liking their online post, sending unprompted sexually explicit images of themselves, the person doing that, pretending to be younger, offering incentives for explicit conduct, and spot red flags. So a child who is experiencing online enticement may be spending increased time online, getting upset when he or she is not allowed on their device, taking extra steps to conceal what they are doing online, and receiving gifts from people they don't know. And then the last one, engage, talk about it, get involved, and don't pull the plug. What I mean by don't pull the plug, taking away internet access because they may have made a mistake online doesn't solve the problem. Talk to them about protecting themselves and respecting others online. So taking the technology away is not always the fix. It's more about having an open conversation, a place of trust for them to come to. So when they do have these questions, they're going to come to you and they're not going to go online and to other people to try to get those answers. And that's it. So questions.
I was just going to say there was one final question that came through before we sign off, which is, do you see that parents who restrict everything end up with kids who rebel and hide it and sext anyway?
So I think my best answer is I feel like with everything, it's a fine line. I think if you go too restrictive, it's kind of like the best way to describe it is if your kids grow up and they've never tasted anything with sugar in it, never had a piece of candy, never had a piece of chocolate, never had anything. They're the ones that will go to college and then they'll be gluttonous and just indulge in like eating mass quantities of junk food. Okay. If you become so restrictive, then what happens is it has a counter effect. However, if you're too lenient too, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So I feel like the answer is it's somewhere in between. Okay. You have to be a parent here. You can't be their friend. Okay. You have to be a parent. You have to know what they're doing. You have to model this. You have to have those conversations. You have to start teaching them at all levels of development about the things that are appropriate. And don't be worried about introducing something they don't know, because chances are they already know it. Okay. Don't walk on eggshells. I think it's a fine line, so you can be restrictive, but at the same time, like I just told you in the last point, just taking their technology away doesn't solve it altogether. Okay. They're just going to go around you and circumvent that. So I think it's a fine balance of between being restrictive and also giving them some autonomy and being able to make decisions that are, for themselves. So I feel like the correct answer is somewhere in between.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Investigator Fisher, and thank you everyone for participating. We'll be sure to send out the follow-up information soon, as well as a few questions in a short survey. And actually, if you are interested and you really know youth who'd be interested in a presentation geared towards them, we hope that you'll share that interest in that survey. So Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yes, have a good rest of your day, everyone.
You too. All right, take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.